We're going to be in John chapter 5. If you have a Bible, flip to it. And we're going to start with verse 5. Yes, go ahead. Thank you, Kaylee. So, one of the men lying there had been sick for 38 years. When Jesus saw him and knew he had been ill for a long time, he asked him, "Would you like to get well?" "I can't, sir," the sick man said, "for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up. Someone else always gets there ahead of me." Jesus told him, "Stand up, pick up your mat, and walk." Instantly the man was healed. He rolled up his sleeping mat and began to walking. But the miracle happened on the Sabbath. So, Jesus told him and asked, "Do you want to get well?" Can you imagine how many things that y'all are probably going through right now that you're wishing that you're quitting, whether that's porn, anger issues, drugs, gluttony, lying. You can think of any sin that you want, but Jesus could be asking you, do you want to get well? And you could either be ignoring him, you could be blind right now, not seeing what he's asking. And so whenever Jesus is asking you that, just like how he asked this man and said, "Stand up and pick up your mat and walk." That man had to have faith in Jesus in order to do that. He believed in Jesus whenever it happened too. And so basically, whenever God's asking you these questions, you have to think. Like with me, for the longest time, I struggled with anger. And I always asked God for help. And he would give me an option or guidance right there. But just like how this man said, "I can't, for I have no one to put me into the pool when the water bubbles up." I would think about and be like, well, I can't. Because I've seen my dad get angry and frustrated my entire life, and I see that's how he deals with issues, so that's how I'm going to deal with my issues. I can't because this is what I know. I can't because I don't want to step out of my comfort zone. I want to continue in my sin. Just like whenever Jesus found the man and told him to stop sinning, there was a reason after he told him to get up and carry his mat, and he met him in the temple and told him to stop sinning, to keep on going onto that path. Because we all have excuses when it comes down to it. It's really hard to set aside and be like, okay, God, I'm listening to you. I'm going to go and I'm going to stop doing drugs. I'm going to stop watching porn. I'm going to stop doing all these things. We can say it, but we can talk the talk, but can you walk the walk? Are you able to actually put your actions into real life? Because I can come up here and say, I'm going to be the best man ever. I'm going to go around in Africa, spread the gospel, go to China, start a church, plant a church, and I say all these amazing things. But am I actually going to do it whenever I say it? So it comes down to obedience whenever God is coming to you. Or in Jesus, when he's asking, do you want to get well? What is your excuse going to be? Or what is your answer going to be followed by action? I'll say the first time I ever had anybody pray for me to get well about something that really touched me and made me cry my eyes out was actually from Nick Hartline, Miss Jen's husband, and definitely a big shout out. That man's awesome. I love him. Nick Hartline, that's Miss Jen's husband. Yeah. Yes. Miss Jen. Yes, Miss Jen too. But I remember that whenever I told him about what I wished to get well by, he prayed for me, and then afterwards he had a conversation to me about chain breaking. And I'm pretty sure y'all have heard me say this a lot, because I love this analogy, because it's so true, though, at the end of the day. Whenever you're trying to get away from that sin or whatever is bothering you, think about it, you're tied down to chains right now. Whenever God gives you an opportunity to speak to somebody about it like you just did through prayer, or to talk to him or confide in him, the chains start getting looser and looser and looser and looser and looser until one day, boom, you snap them because you're a new person and the old you is now dead. But those opportunities where you get the chance to tell somebody and you don't, you're going all the way back. And someday those chains aren't going to be able to get any tighter than what they are. And it's going to be too late. So whenever Jesus asked the man, do you want to get well? I want to ask y'all the same thing. Do y'all want to get well? If you haven't accepted Jesus in your heart, you can always do it. You can do it at breakfast, at lunch, at dinner. You can do it at school whenever you want to. But it just depends, like, is your heart there? Do you want to let Jesus take the way, to let him guide you? Do you want to do God's will for yourself? It's a big question to ask, but at the same time, it makes me tear up almost every single time I've seen somebody give their life to God, because it's just beautiful, living your life for the Lord, not living for the earth, but living for your Father. And whenever you get well, that's truly what you do. You start seeing in your life, and you start seeing that, hey, like, the world's not really about your earthly desires. I ain't taking none of this crap with me whenever I die, because I'm going to heaven. What does this matter? If I have a Bugatti, any color, whatever Bugatti it is, why would it matter, though, if I had it whenever I pass? And I'm not going to drive it into heaven. I'm like, hey, what's up, St. James? Look at this. Like, it would be cool if I could do it, but the truth is you can't. So, when you stop living for the earth and you start living for God, that's whenever you start getting well. That's where you start getting the medicine and the food that you need right there. Whenever you surround yourself with people like this is what it's all about. Just like in men's group, I was a totally different person until I started going. And then I had Nick Hartline, I had Sean, I had Lance, I had everybody there. And they completely changed me for the better. And I'll never forget that.